Welcome back to the BKY JAV show, where today we'll be taking a look back at 2020, because as they say, hindsight is 2020. We start things off in February, where Trump is giving his third State of the Union address, the highlight of which was Nancy Pelosi shredding his speech. Glad she didn't get a paper cut. But really though, imagine giving a speech to the nation the night before your impeachment trial in the Senate. Just Trump things, am I right? But seriously though, McConnell's got his back. Because according to McConnell, as long as you're a loyal Republican, you can do no harm. Which is why Trump was impeached, but not removed from office. Attorney General William Barr said that it was impossible for him to do his job because Trump always tweets. Well, geez, that's Trump, I'm telling you. And besides, didn't you read the job requirements? It says, you must be able to deflect BS by adding more BS. I say they're doing quite well. It's now March, and the world is getting a lot crazier. As absurd as it may seem, the possum, according to SNL, known as Jeff Sessions, is now running against football coach Tommy Tuberville to become the senator from Alabama in the U.S. Senate. Well, Tuberville won, and the next day a reporter questioned him on what were the three branches of government. He said, the executive? All right, that's one. But then the House and the Senate, like, oh my gosh, if I, as a high schooler, have to pass civics to graduate, why is there no requirement for senators and representatives to have a basic understanding of civics before they are allowed to become office holders? That makes no sense. But of course, as we know, March is when the coronavirus pandemic became exponentially worse in the United States, crippling our healthcare systems and ravaging communities. That's when our school was also closed down. But with more on this, we turn to Keanu for the next 2 months.
April started with President Donald Trump announcing that the U.S. strategic national stockpile was nearly depleted after shortages of medical supplies to fight the virus. This bad news only seemed to get worse as the following day came and the country received no announcement of an April Fool's joke or just kidding from the president. Trump may have forgotten what day is April Fool's, as on the 23rd of April he suggested injecting disinfectant or UV rays would cure you of the virus. For the love of God, please do not do this. We do not live in a Marvel universe where a spider-bite can turn you superhuman. Trump regarded his claims as sarcasm to bait the media, but many are still a skeptic. I think he definitely made some BS to cover his tracks. If he was being earnest, how did he even come to this conclusion? The mind of our president is an enigma, at the very least. Bernie Sanders dropped out of the Democratic race on the 8th of April. Critics claim the reason for his withdrawal to be shock and mental trauma after Cardi B, famous female American music artist, endorsed candidate Joe Biden over him. This seemed to deeply hurt him, especially after recent interactions between the two and her support for him in the 2016 presidential election, when she officially stated, "Vote for Daddy Bernie, bitch." As he drops out of the race, however, he endorses his opponent Joe Biden. Former President Barack Obama endorses his former Vice President Joe Biden as well, confirming their bromance is still alive and well. To move on to a more serious note, May was a month where people finally were fed up with the racism and discriminatory murder that has been prevalent throughout America. Video recording of Ahmaud Arbery being unlawfully murdered was leaked, as well as witness recording of the police murder of George Floyd. The whole nation erupted in a rifle outburst, reinvigorating the Black Lives Movement for more to come. And that covers the big events of April and May. This has been news anchor Keanu signing out.
Thank you, Keanu, for that segment on April and May. Now we'll throw it over to Yohan to talk about the next 2 months.
The political and racial divide could not have been bigger in June, when after the death of George Floyd, many came out to protest the police's use of lethal force on what should have been a routine procedure. People flocked in the tens of thousands to show support for the victims of police violence. But still there were some who opposed the idea of accountability in the police force. Even the president himself called BLM a symbol of hate, describing them as rioters, looters, and thugs. This is the guy who refused to condemn white supremacists, so are we really surprised here? I'll take a break from the political divide to bring a little more lighthearted news. The Senate has questioned Zuckerberg on his shady dealings with Facebook and how he's been using that corrupt company to make some serious bank. Listen in. Could you believe this guy? Running ads on a free platform? This Zuck guy sure likes to suck us dry. I guess this corrupt media stuff got to Trump and his advisors, because I haven't seen him tweeting recently. Looks like Oh, he got banned. Okay, looks like we're moving to Instagram for our... He got banned there too. Okay, what about Snapchat? Reddit? Twitch? Discord? TikTok?
Thanks, Yohan, for that reporting on June and July. Now we'll throw it over to James to talk about August and September.
It looks like Joe Biden picked his running mate as Kamala Harris, and now we have potential for a female president since most people believe Joe Biden's going to die in the first days of his presidency. But what's even worse is that if either side wins the election, the country is screwed no matter what. But I think I'd rather have a new terror in the White House than the same one we've been dealing with all these years. Also, BLM protests still do exist, as they reach over 100 nights of peaceful demonstrations. And no, just because the news coverage stopped doesn't mean the protest did either. It's almost like the coverage stopped when the rioting and the looting stopped. It's almost like they didn't care about BLM until it started affecting their businesses. Maybe the riots were necessary, seeing as that's all the media cared about. But hey, now Target is considering changing their name, seeing as some people took it too literally. As school starts to open, COVID begins to creep its way back into the limelight, forcing several schools to quarantine in just the first few weeks of being open. This was probably accounted to kids trading their mass during lunch or running around and coughing on people to spread cooties as a joke. But luckily, a symptom for COVID is loss of taste, so these kids can finally eat their school lunch and enjoy it. Other good news is that the FDA is allowing the use of COVID antibody plasma treatment on patients, which is saving lives, and it's saved many. Bad news is anti-vaxxers heard the word treatment and thought it was another vaccine, and they refused to take it. Good news again, they won't survive long enough to be in the gene pool.
Thank you, James, for that segment on August and September. Now we'll throw it to Alex to talk about October and November.
The only thing more frightening than Trump's restrictions on the H-1B visa during the spooky season might be him catching COVID-19. It looks like he might have to acknowledge the reality of science for once. And I guess his solution to unemployment isn't to make more jobs, it's to prevent immigrants with special skills from bringing their abilities to our nation. So much for the American dream. And while the holiday season is approaching, there's not much to be thankful for. There's been 2 shootings in Philadelphia and North Carolina, and many more in cities such as LA, Milwaukee, and New York. I guess gun regulation really isn't worth discussing. And as the BLM protests aren't slowing down, we can see that the Portland Capitol is currently facing riots. Honestly, I might have to agree with the critics here. What's the point? It's not like human rights are really that essential, right? Who really cares about a couple people dead, even if we do see an alarming racial connection? Though I do have to question the troglodytic behavior. What can you expect when you treat people like animals? And as we're gearing up for the election, we'll be able to see a historically old race. Rather than a duel of fates, we should expect something more along the lines of a duel of the farts. But one good thing is that we're actually seeing record-breaking voter turnout. Ironic, especially during the pandemic. At least we see people exercising their right to democracy through various methods of voting. I'm sure we won't see a certain somebody have a problem with this. And after Biden's winning the election, I'm sure Trump is also taking the news well. What with all the lawsuits and crying of bloody murder. Some people just can't accept the truth, and I think it's going to be a long time before we see a definitive end to the election. Trump's acting almost as if we'd taken candy from a baby, except there was no candy, only a baby.
Now on to some news from December and January. Although it's been more than a month since he lost the election, President Trump still has not admitted that the election is over, and has gone as far out as to call out his own voter fraud as the reason that he lost and the reason as to why the results must be overturned. Similar to every other month of this year, natural selection, as presented by Darwin, continues to kill those who are unable to comprehend that wearing a mask prevents the spread of the new strain of the America virus that was detected in Ohio. Looks like President Trump was right when he said America first in his inauguration back in 2017. Now, onto some gaming news. A group of die-hard Minecraft fans cosplayed as the pillagers from the game, but sadly they mistook the United States Capitol as a scene of their raid, rather than a village where it's supposed to take place. This draws similar parallels to last year, when instead of a World War III threat that we had at the start of 2020, we now have a Civil War threat. And luckily, the National Guard was there to gently escort these terrorists out of the building, exactly the same way as the Black Lives protests back in the summer. I can't wait to see what we have in store for the rest of 2021. Hopefully the United States doesn't go America first on the leaderboard for the most number of riots and coups d'etats in a country. So thank you for listening to this episode of the BKY JAB show, and we look forward to seeing you guys again next year, 2022.